Hello everyone, welcome back to the Unexplored Capitol Wasteland. The Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be looking at Grayditch. Now I decided to approach Grayditch from Megaton, but Grayditch is a fairly large city, and there's many ways to approach the city from. Now, for most people, they probably know this town because of the quest, Those. Anyways, here on the outskirts of Grayditch, we can find a lot of abandoned buildings. However, something that's kind of common throughout Fallout 3 is as you explore it, you will notice a lot of the buildings do not actually have real entrances. They're just purely aesthetic. You see a similar situation in Fallout New Vegas, but it's not nearly as common, mainly because the Mojave Wasteland is more barren than the Capitol Wasteland. Now, another thing I noticed, though, is in Fallout 4, buildings become much more accessible. There's a lot more places that you can actually go inside. Here we have a crumbling building with nothing inside. Then in this building, there's actually the Talon Company mercs who decided to attack me when I entered. Now, I don't really know why the Talon Company mercs attacked me. In my last video, I mentioned that they're just hostile, but apparently it's based on your karma. If you have good karma, they will attack you, and if you had bad karma, they won't attack you. Which is kind of an interesting feature within Fallout 3. Definitely in Fallout 3, karma plays a much bigger role than it does in Fallout New Vegas. But after killing the mercs, there is not a whole lot in this building. However, there are some weapons and ammo. Continuing further into the city, I found this abandoned building with, again, no entrances, but some very kind of creepy looking statues on the outside of it. I don't know what these statues are or what this building was used for, but I definitely thought it was quite creepy, and it gave me an unsettling vibe. I do think the Capitol Wasteland is much more creepy and eerie than the Mojave Wasteland. However, I don't think that is the atmosphere that Obsidian was trying to create when they made the Mojave. The Mojave is much less destroyed, it is more organized, it is more fractured, and it's more developed, whereas the Capitol Wasteland is more eerie, more scary, and a lot more destroyed, as evident by Grayditch. As for some of the lore on Grayditch, Grayditch used to be a very affluent neighborhood of Washington, D.C. before the bombs fell, and now it is a settlement, although most of the people who had settled it are now dead due to the fire ants that have overrun the city. Now you can also get some pretty incredible views of Washington, D.C. Here we see the Washington Monument from Grayditch. Continuing to explore the area, I found this really weird building called the Outpost. And inside I found a bunch of ghouls who are apparently wastelanders who were hostile to me the second I opened the door. And there was also a super mutant here attacking the ghouls. So just a really wild kind of situation as I entered, and a war. Also, this wastelander glitched out, and I don't know what he was doing, but I ended up killing him pretty easily. And then over here we can see the Wastelander managed to kill the super mutant, and then I could loot their bodies for some ammunition and weapons. Now, there wasn't a whole lot in here, but there was a scoped 44 Magnum, which is pretty good. Another thing in Fallout 3 is I forgot terminals can be booby-trapped, like so. When you try to activate them, they explode. I don't believe there is any such mechanic in Fallout New Vegas, but maybe there is, and I'm just unaware of it. There's also a Nuka-Cola Quantum in here, which is pretty good. And like I said before, lots of ammunition. There's a very hard locked gate, and I couldn't find a key for it, so I could not open it, but it appears that there's nothing in there. Moving on to the more central part of Grayditch, we will find the Fire Ants, which is a part of the quest Those. Now, Those might be one of the most famous side quests in Fallout 3 because of the way it starts via random encounter with Bryan Wilkes, who will run up to you telling him that his town has been overrun and that he's worried about his father, and he asks you to go check on his father. I've already had that encounter in this playthrough, so Bryan Wilkes is waiting in a bomb shelter, which we'll see here in a little bit. Now, I'm still a relatively low level in this playthrough of Fallout 3, so I really used all of my ammunition in order to complete the quest Those. It's a pretty long quest. And if you didn't know, it's actually based on a movie called Them. So inside this Plotsky preservation shelter, we can find Bryan after he's talked to us. I just shut him back in there. And then this is next to an abandoned diner. If we proceed to Bryan Wilkes's house, we can find the corpse of his father, who was unfortunately killed by the fire ants, but we can see that he put up one hell of a fight. Now, across the street from this house is the Brandis house, which has a hard lock safe in it, but on one of the bodies we can actually find a key that will lead us to a missile launcher, which is found in a footlocker on the second floor. So some pretty good loot located in that house. But after finding Bryan's dad, we can search his body and get the key for the shack, which is next to Bryan's house. Inside this shack, there is a terminal, which if we read, we can learn about a scientist, Dr. Lesko, who was trying to manipulate the genetics of the ants. Now, after finding out this information, we will be tasked with finding Dr. Lesko. Now, one thing I really liked about this quest was the quest doesn't really tell you where to go. It tells you that the doctor is in Marigold Station. However, it doesn't tell you where, so that it's up to the player to explore and find it. I really like this kind of quest where it isn't so obvious about where to go. Now, you can also return to Bryan and tell him that his father is dead. And after this, I decided to keep on clearing out the fire ants from Grayditch. And there's only one resident in Grayditch now, and something I was wondering is why don't the residents from Megaton move into Grayditch? It seems a lot safer than building a city around an atomic bomb. So as I mentioned earlier, the quest Those is based on a 1954 monster film called Them. And the premise of that movie is that during the Trinity test, the Manhattan Project, when they tested the atomic bomb, it led to mutations in ants, leading to giant man-eating ants in New Mexico. So we can see the obvious connection between those and them. So some pretty cool trivia about this quest. So moving on to Marigold Station, which we can see plastered on the bus stop there, we will find a pretty standard Fallout 3 subway system. Now in Fallout 3, the subways are all pretty copy and paste, so at least in my opinion, it makes it easy to get lost down here, so I have to carefully keep track of where I've been. Now this subway system is filled with those fire ants, and I found that it is quite difficult to fight them at close range because they will deal a lot of damage. So I took out my laser rifle, which was dealing the most damage to them, and I found it to be the most effective. Now in this subway we have what I assume would be like maintenance tunnels that we can follow down to the main area, and there's also some mine boxes filled with frag mines, which for me were very useful later on in this quest. But if we continue to make our way down, we will again have to continue to fight these damn fire ants. However, I did find that if you shoot their antenna, they will go crazy and attack anything that is nearby, which can be helpful if you're dealing with a lot of them in a small area. Now eventually you'll come out to this main central area where we can see the tracks and where people would board the subway. Now in here there's actually a holotape that will take us on another quest that is unrelated to those. Now this is an unmarked quest called Grady's Package, which will take us eventually to Girdershade, which is a settlement near the area where we start the Nuka-Cola challenge. So perhaps a video for another time. And on this holotape, he will talk about a key which Grady hid inside the train station. However, we don't need the key if you have average lockpicking, and I will show where to find the contents of the package which Grady is talking about. But besides that, there is not a whole lot in this main chamber, so I continued back the way I came, this time going the opposite direction. Now, in this vending machine, I found a Nuka-Cola Quantum. I don't know if that's a normal spawn or if it's just chance. And there's also some locked ammunition boxes. And throughout these tunnels, you can find various weapons and ammunition that can obviously help you on your playthrough. The subway is also littered with various skeletons, which adds to this kind of creepy feeling. Eventually, you'll notice an exit, and if we take that exit, we will find that we are now at Falls Church, and here it is on the mini-map. However, I didn't really want to investigate this area yet, maybe saving it for yet another video, but there was a raider out here that I took the ammo and also some more ammunition and mines on this table that I wanted to take. I tried to sleep, but there were too many enemies nearby. Going back into Marigold Station, there were some fire ants again that I had to take out. As we make our way towards Dr. Lesko, we will eventually find an easy locked door that we can use lockpicking or science to open. And inside this room, we will find a safe, which is the package which Grady was talking about in his holotape. And there's also some more frag mines inside of here, along with a first aid box that had some stim packs. So pretty good. And as we can see here, this is the safe, and upon opening the safe, you will find naughty nightwear. And after finding this naughty nightwear, a character named Lugnut will run up to you and ask you to give it to him.
I'm only going to ask you this one time. Give me the naughty nightwear. All right. My mistake. It obviously belongs to you. Now, you just watch it, 'cause I won't be so nice next time.
Anyways, that's one of my favorite interactions in all of Fallout. It just was so random to me the first time I ever experienced it. Here you can see me where I damaged the fire ants' antennas, and they started fighting each other, which makes my life a lot easier. Now, also, Lugnut decided to get involved in the fight here and help me kill the fire ant, which was really nice of him. Then, after killing this fire ant, we can find the body of William Brandis, whose house has the missile launcher and is also a resident of Grayditch. So, obviously, he met his end in this subway tunnel. And there you can see the key on his corpse, which will unlock the footlocker, which contains the missile launcher back in Grayditch, inside of his house. Eventually, we will find Dr. Lesko, who will task us with killing the fire ant guardians, but not killing the fire ant queen, which can be a little bit difficult, but it was actually a lot easier than I had thought it would be. So after talking to Dr. Lesko, you will head into the caverns where the fire ant nest is. And you can see me here taking out the guardians. However, these guardians have a lot of health and they deal a lot of damage, especially to someone like me who is a lower level. However, I was able to use their antennas and use frag mines to effectively neutralize all of the guardians. The queen has a lot of health, so it wasn't really an issue when she got involved in the fight. And like I said before, I just frenzied the fire ants, which the frag mines do a very good job of, and the fire ants fought each other. Eventually, the queen killed off all of the guardians, and my job was finished. After killing all the ants, you should return to Dr. Lesko, and he will give you an injection. Now, you can choose two things, Ant Sight or Ant Might. Choosing Ant Sight grants you +1 perception, and choosing Ant Might grants you +1 strength. However, both will grant you +25% fire resistance. I took the +1 strength because I personally am not a big fan of the perception stat. After that, we can return to Bryan Wilkes, who will tell us that the ants went crazy and started fighting each other and ran away. After this, we will be tasked with finding Bryan a new home. Now, there's a variety of places we can send him, including Little Lamplight and even being a slave, but the best option is to send him to his aunt, Vera Weatherly, who is located in Rivet City, and she runs the hotel in Rivet City. This will grant the player a large amount of karma, and it'll make Bryan happy, as we can see here.
You really found her? I can't believe everything you've done for me.
And there you have it, folks, Grayditch. Now, those is one of my favorite quests in Fallout 3, so I wanted to highlight it for the purpose of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and if you have any recommendations for the next place of the Unexplored Capitol Wasteland, please post them in the comments section below. Until next time.